Diego, and welcome to Global TV Talk Show. Our very special guest today is good friend, long time, Hampton Dowling, is in the Washington, D.C. area. Former naval commander, uh, still involved in defense work and as a private enterprise. Welcome, Hampton Dowling.
Ed, it's good to see you again, as always. You keep looking younger decade after decade, but it is good to see you.
You know what? I have this magic cream.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Just put it in Costco and we'll all buy it. That's right.
So I turned 80 in June.
Oh my, no way. Really?
Yeah, I was born in 45. And
Oh,
but I'm in really good health, thank God. And and I swim every day in the pool downstairs, and then
well, hell, you could go out in the bay and swim, San Diego. You're
I
you're
know,
there. The Back
I don't
Bay is
know,
all.
a little bit polluted for me. So welcome to the talk show again.
Great to
This
be
is
here.
the umpteenth time you've been on.
No, no,
So
it's great. Yeah.
So today is August 12, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
2025, and it's a new world. The economy
Hmm.
is strong. The turmoil surrounding all that is strong. And there's a lot of people who are being impacted. But this show is not about politics. However, it's a global business show,
Hmm.
and geopolitics is everywhere.
Hmm.
So we have to deal with that. Hampton Dowling has recently recorded some walkabouts, if you will, with a video on him. And one of them that caught my eye earlier today in prep for this was the one about walking around in Washington, walking around, uh, watching and listening, in
Hmm.
particular on Capitol Hill. Would you
Hmm.
like to describe that a little bit?
Well, I'm a member of many different organizations, whether that's business or veterans, and it gives me an opportunity. It gives me a reason to get up on Capitol Hill. I don't have any unique access. I mean, I have colleagues and friends, but I had an opportunity to meet several members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee, both the members themselves or their chief of staff, and insofar as the national defense budget and how it's put together and what it means and what are the various constraining and influencing factors. I mean, there's just a lot going on for the next fiscal year, far and away more than previous years. And
And
it's
the fiscal year begins October 1.
October 1st. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And then also it's an opportunity to meet with colleagues, whether in different market verticals, just meet at the different private clubs. I'm a member of the Army Navy Club, or meet in hotels. You have lunch, and it's just an opportunity to sit down and talk about what is the legislation that's moving forward. How is it associated with trade deals? What does it mean for impending tax legislation? What does it mean for companies' business strategies? There's just a number of influencing factors that are going on right now that by the time October 1st comes around, uh, you know, people are going to understand how legislation is going to impact their business for the next few years.
Let's talk
So,
about FDI, foreign direct investment.
yeah, it's a
That's
lot of
been
that going on. Yeah,
that's been going on forever, a long, long
always,
time.
always, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the UK is probably the biggest investor in the US.
UK has always been kind of right near the top. I mean, but that's because not necessarily because the UK generates a lot of money. The UK's economy right now is in shambles, but it has always been the corporate headquarters of a number of multinational corporations going
Right.
back to the British Empire, really. So those addresses in London are usually those that are associated with investment in the US. So it could be investment coming out of Asia, Latin America, the Middle East. It comes out of corporate headquarters or family offices or investment institutions that are in London.
So I was fortunate to be invited by the Global Trade Bank, HSBC,
Yeah.
to come to London and to their headquarters the past
Wow.
three years and put
Yeah.
on a meeting, a live meeting, portions of which were on my Zoom
Hmm.
also. But it was really good, and they've introduced me to the New York counterpart.
Hmm.
But that meeting has not yet taken place.
Hmm.
It's in the planning stages. But anyway, that experience taught me a lot. First of all, I
Oh, I
was
imagine it would.
honored
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
able to do that as they were host facilitator.
Hmm.
And then I partnered with some international organizations as to bring them in as co-sponsored speakers.
Oh, great.
And then they
Super.
invited some people, and we just had wonderful experiences connected with that. From that experience, uh, and this is after been doing this business now for 40 years,
A long
and
time.
that
Right.
the theme, strength, I'm going to say it, strengthening
Hmm.
global international business relationships,
Hmm. Yeah.
more important today than ever.
Ever before. That's correct. I
And it's
agree.
not, of course, it has to do with geopolitics, but there's just so much opportunity. And with President Trump uh, leading the way in vociferously explaining how things in business have to change and the incentives to operate more, to build more, use the opportunity to help U.S. retool and build up from within,
Hmm.
and then make it advantageous. Uh, it's a winner. I'm seeing it in my business. It's a change from
Hmm.
how things were, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And so the change uh, and the volatility has caused a lot of my steady advertisers and co-sponsors to halt and to watch and observe what is going on out there. So my business has been impacted negatively this year by that stall. So I have decided to double down to reinvigorate some ideas and products that I developed 25, 30 years ago
Hmm.
and did well at that time. But that was a different world. And as globalization was taking place more and more in the commercial side of things, my specialty out there, I know you know this, but the audience out there is human resources and
Hmm.
developing human resources and moving people across borders and with all the things that go into that, including immigration and compliances there and here. And so I think the change is good. It's really disruptive, but it's making for more streamlined and I think things are still settling down. What's your take on all this disruption and the changes?
Well, I think it's all for the good. Um, you know, we've had a trade deficit. I would say almost 97, 98% of all of our trade deficit has been wrapped around probably 15 to 17 countries. And the imbalance has been extraordinary. We've been unable to sell American products in their country, but yet they've been able to sell virtually everything tariff-free inside the United States. Well, and they typically don't build in the United States. It's just they simply export and it shows up in our stores and we buy it. Well, that's not necessarily a good thing for American business because when you remove 80% of the global market from, you precludes US business from participating in the majority of global markets, for our various products and commodities and services. I mean, it's a tremendous deficit to the US economy. And it's all artificially induced. These are all just policies. It's administrative. It's just simply, as President Trump has said many times, we just simply had very stupid people making these trade agreements. Um, if I travel, as you know, I travel a great deal. If you're in Europe, you're not going to see American-made cars. You're not going to see it. Well, I mean, that's a big deal. If you go into the supermarkets, you don't see a lot of American commodities and products. If you go into their version of Costco, you don't see a lot of American, you don't see any American products. So, I mean, that's I mean, that affects cash flow. It affects business. It impacts the value of the American economy. And so, you're really holding back the American engine from growing and being independent. I mean, we've had to import so much. I mean, my goodness, we produce more natural gas and oil than any other country. I mean, most countries combined, but yet we were importing everything. Why? Why are we doing this? Because importing all this oil and being dependent has a direct correlation to inflation. I mean, there's a lot of economics involved. So when you see this disruption and having these trade deals come into play that level the percentage of tariffs involved, when you're trying to bring down import and export duties, you're really balancing commerce, and that's the way it should be. It should be free markets. We should be able to export and import everything. And, you know, so the incentive, part of the incentive of these trade deals is for uh, foreign corporations to invest in the United States. We have a lower tax base. We can. We have an extraordinary labor pool. We have expansive geography. We have natural resources far and away that we have the ability to absorb. So there's tremendous manufacturing capacity here. We have the largest consumer base in the world. So there's a reason for foreign countries, foreign corporations to invest in the United States because we produce, we make money. It's good for jobs. We then export. It goes to their country. They buy it. There's a balance in trade and commerce, and it has a positive influence on the dollar, positive influence on U.S. employment, and we're able to produce and export more without any artificial barriers. And all this is really coming into play in a very accelerated pace over the past 6.5 months. And it is very disruptive. And the news doesn't do a very good job of capturing all of it, probably educating the public, and maybe the government doesn't do a good job of
Well, it
really
seems like
explaining
it's
it.
the headlines.
Yeah.
Well, it is the headlines rather than the understanding.
Hmm.
So the headlines grab eyeballs for
Well, of
sure.
course they do. Right.
And but it's almost like a
Mhm.
scare tactic without, and then if you get into reading the paragraphs below,
Hmm.
you understand it's all there, but nobody ever reads that stuff, it seems. They just look at the headlines and move on.
Well, if we're able if we have the opportunity to invest more in the United States and build up our manufacturing capacity, if we have the opportunity to uh, extract and process more of the strategic critical minerals that are required for industry, if we have an opportunity to
Now, in the
properly,
past, we have it in the western part of the U.S. in particular, underdeveloped mining of stuff that's in the ground, and a lot of that is on federal lands, but the laws have prevented that. Is that what you're saying?
we back in the 70s, we started closing a lot of our mines. We even did away with the Bureau of Mines within the Department of the Interior. Um, we haven't opened any mines in the United States until the past couple of years for decades. And to reopen a mine, depending on the state, like California, it could take up to 15 years to reopen a mine. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but they're all artificial. But this created, because it's just easier for us to import a lot of these critical minerals than making the financial investment about having a mine in the United States where it really costs a lot artificially. So now we're really opening a lot of mines. We're starting to optimize our own oil and natural gas capabilities and reservoirs. I mean, in northern Alaska, there is enough oil to service the United States for probably the next 50 years. So when you have this sort of independence, in other words, you're not dependent on somebody else, well, your economy is going to improve. Not being dependent, not having to pay tariffs, not having to pay fees for bringing in materials of which the United States has a lot of, that's a tremendous boon to the US economy. And that's really what the administration is trying to do.
So
But
the
also,
difference, if I can just get back into the
yeah, yeah.
energy side of things, yeah, fracking,
Mhm,
the new technology, it has been an amazing invention and
mhm.
application that has absolutely benefited all
Absolutely.
Americans.
Yeah.
And there's, I'm not an engineer, but I imagine that the uh, the job of fracking takes a lot of space and machinery and processing and what to do with that stuff so it doesn't leak out.
Well, technology's evolved at. I mean, a lot of people that don't like a particular technology all point to accidents and challenges, technologically challenges that are decades old. But actually, fracking saves a lot of room. You can have one point of entry into the Earth's surface and it spreads out underground for miles and miles. So actually, it's safer, it's non-intrusive, and it's actually far more efficient. It consolidates the extraction in a safe manner, and you send it off in various, flow mechanisms to refineries and so forth. But other countries have been doing fracking for decades. We just didn't because of artificial regulations. Right now, all of a sudden we're hearing about nuclear power generation. Well, other countries have been doing it for forever. France has like 50 or 60 nuclear power plants. All of them are running very safely. Why haven't we been doing it here in the US? It's just a lot of these arbitrary regulations and restrictions have been put in place for a variety of reasons. A lot of different institutions find it to be very profitable to have limits on certain things and export and develop dependencies. But over time, those limitations on the U.S. economy put us in a very vulnerable position. Right now, a significant amount of our national defense capability is dependent on critical minerals that are controlled by China or Russia. And that's bad. I mean, that's bad. Even some of the more very specific rare earth elements that are important for industry, for transportation, for pharmaceutical industry, those are available in the United States. They haven't been mined. It's going to take a while to get to them, but they're controlled by third parties, China, Russia, Iran, so forth. And that's put us in a vulnerable position economically and in terms of national security. And it's been recognized recently, and we're moving in the right direction and exponentially faster since President Trump has taken office. Part of the disruption that you see. And it's going to take a while for the benefits to be realized. We live in a society where we have rather immediate expectations. It's McDonald's. We make an order, we expect it to be delivered in 4 or 5 minutes. It should be taste exactly the way we see it on television. Well, global economy doesn't work that way. And putting these trade agreements in place so that we have a balanced global economic structure where every country can move forward in its own best interests, which is good for everybody, where the United States can move forward with a proper economic plan that leverages our own internal resources. All of that really takes time, but we're already seeing the benefits of it. I mean, it doesn't matter what you think about politically, but inflation is down where we had the highest inflation in history not very long ago. And foreign investors like that economic stability. They like the projection of growth. They're going to come here. Just look at all the foreign companies that are investing in the United States. It's everything from candy companies to transportation companies to companies that make automobile parts and aviation parts and mining and just every facet of society, agricultural products. I mean, we have like over $10 trillion of programmed investment coming into the United States just in the past 7 months. And, it takes time for all that programmed investment to be processed and eventually, the investments to be realized in physical infrastructure and manufacturing and then flow into the economy. So in 2 or 3 years, uh, one can only imagine what the gross domestic product of the United States will be. And that's what foreign direct investment is looking for.
Yeah. Um, for the benefit of the audience, I'd like to read a little bit from your LinkedIn page.
Oh
Uh,
my,
okay.
I hope it's
Uh,
current.
well, it's on your page today.
All right, okay, all right.
So
I hope,
everybody, this is Hampton Dowling. You can go
yeah,
there and read it much
yeah.
more detailed than I'm going to do. The business landscape of 2025 is rapidly changing with extraordinary advantages taking shape for the long term of a majority of market verticals. A market vertical is like the auto industry. That's it's vast,
Agriculture, energy,
right?
manufacturing,
Okay, good.
pharmaceutical, those things, yeah.
So Hampton says today's business and manufacturing topography is far more complicated and rugged than it was just a few years ago. The cost of doing business remains high from recent years, as does the cost of capital, but so is the cost of mistakes. Mistakes in judgment or relying on past thinking. Is that what you mean?
Uh, that's right. We cost of capital is high for a variety of reasons. It's going to take a while for interest rates to really drop. Um, so it's the cost of capital. Cost of doing business is high because our labor rates are high, and you're paying $30 minimum wage. I mean, what do you think?
No.
People can't buy a home. I mean, it's those costs remain high, and they'll eventually come down. But the cost of not thinking through um, what what is ahead of us and making the right investment decisions, the cost of those mistakes really put you in a pickle. And that's why you see a lot of businesses close.
Yeah, they're just trapped. So, Hampton, I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but I'm just going to read some of it. Now is the time to optimize opportunities, as you just heard.
Mhm.
It's about helping CXOs, in other words, chief executive officers, mid-sized companies and organizations who are primed for success. Primed for success means what to you?
Well, prime for success is that, they have products and services and ideas which perhaps haven't been launched yet because of the cost of capital. Artificial restrictions have been put in place by legislation or laws and federal regulations, red tape, if you were. And but they don't have access to capital. Small business loans, high interest rates. Banks aren't lending. I mean, we've gone through some very difficult times. So the companies today, and there's also a lot of money sitting on the sidelines to be invested, both domestic investors and foreign investors. Family offices and different investment houses are looking for places, looking for solid investments. And the current evolving economic landscape driven by the current administration suggests a very formidable, positive outcome. And so businesses are waiting. They're primed. They're ready to move forward, but they're just looking for the right timing in the current economic climate to make some fundamental decisions. And foreign direct investment helps with that because they need capital. And when you have capital, you generate productivity, and productivity allows you to export, and so goes the cycle of success.
So I want to interject something here for the
Yeah.
good of the audience as well as for our conversation. I have been honored by a London publisher uh, who I met pre-COVID at one of my live London meetings in the Pall Mall area of fancy London. Um, his name is Courtney, and his magazine and company is called FDI Alliance, Foreign Direct Investment Alliance, and it's a magazine about focuses in on places that countries and companies and organizations invest into. other places, including the U.S. His focus
Mhm.
recently, particularly this year, is America, but it's other places too. So he asked me to contribute articles
Mhm.
and tie together the corporate employee relocation business
Mhm.
connected with the FDI. An FDI audience is about people with money, organizations with money, buy land, buy buildings, buy companies, and then add people and systems. Uh,
But also coming here and establishing their own manufacturing capacity, bringing their own people over, making a substantial footprint in the United States. And there are many incentives driven by state and county level economic development authorities to attract foreign businesses to go to their particular jurisdiction, establish a manufacturing plant, employ 1,200 people, and then either distribute their products in the U.S. or turn around and export out of the U.S.
so with that in mind, this is not rehearsed audience. Hampton, the recent approval of the deal with the Japanese-owned Nippon Steel into
Mhm.
U.S. Steel,
Mhm.
um, and with the um arrangements that have been publicized, which for some reason couldn't get through in the last administration, but President Trump and his economic advisors figured out a way of making a deal work.
Mhm.
And they did, because so now that's exactly the same thing. Uh, that's an FDI, isn't it?
It is in a way. Part of it was a Japanese consortium wanted to buy U.S. Steel. Well, there's a little bit more involved with that particular transaction, and it's not necessarily all business. Some of it was just Americana. Buying U.S. Steel was just something that Americans were not ready to swallow. U.S. Steel is an iconic U.S. company. I mean, you can't take away U.S. Steel. It doesn't settle well. And for a fellow like President Trump, he doesn't want to see anything Americana go away. Now, that's separate from the business issues that were included in that evolving agreement. But the President Trump was able to change the framework by which that business transaction was taking place, such that U.S. Steel did not have to be bought, but the Japanese consortium could uh, have a substantial stake in the company and actually invest more in U.S. Steel, invest more in the surrounding parts of the United States, and then actually produce more steel. We needed foreign direct investment. And some of that is also tied to other aspects of, well, it's a Japanese consortium. Well, maybe, the U.S. is going to have access to more Japanese markets, Japanese shipyards, Japanese manufacturing capability for a variety of reasons. So typically, this administration will look at an ongoing business transaction, one that has perhaps strategic implications to the U.S. economy, and they will encourage certain other elements to be included in that business transaction that ultimately strengthens the alliance between two countries, further advances the agreement between two large companies that have tremendous influence in their respective countries. It's to put in place continuity of business, a surety and continuity of business transactions going forward, and to position U.S. business so that it can be engaged equitably and fairly when it comes to international business.
So you've educated me to stop using the phrase APAC, and because it's been changed by people in the know to Indo-Pacific, and that means um, mounting a defense structure that's based upon Japan and Australia and South Korea and
Um,
Philippines, I guess.
well, for so long, people just typically refer to the Pacific Rim. I mean, my goodness, that's almost half the planet. Well, Indo-Pacific, I think more accurately encompasses a greater amount of the global population. I think I remember someone said if you stick a you stick a pole just south of Shanghai along the coast of China, and you draw a 3,000-mile arc, it's sort of like 25% of the world's population falls into it. I mean, Indo-Pacific takes into account Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so forth, which, you really cannot exclude when you talk about the Pacific. So the Indo-Pacific has a context of economics, context of certainly military influence and strategy. And yes, it takes into account uh, Australia to Singapore to the Philippines to Japan to Korea. And that's more of a geopolitical construct. But yeah,
Fascinating, fascinating.
Indo-Pacific is a
Yeah.
more accurate regional term for a large area that is very important. It has a lot of symbiotic relationships.
So jumping around a little bit, I
Yeah.
also read earlier today on your LinkedIn about some of the business, strategic and technical businesses that you're involved with now as an advisor, or
Mhm.
what you call a fractional executive, and in other words, part-time consultant.
Well, I do. I have performed in CXO positions, for a contracted certain period of time. And that allows me to advise or lead components of the company so it becomes healthier, solve some of those internal issues, kind of help them with a business strategy and, putting some structure and better financial management into products, into distribution. I was recently representing two US companies in the Emirates, two different sets of negotiation, one in the Dubai Emirate and one in the Abu Dhabi Emirate. Uh, all this is negotiating for the opportunity for US companies to do more business in the Emirates and vice versa. Right now, I'm also the defense industry advisor to a great company called Eureka Naval Craft. Again, it's producing combatant craft that we believe that U.S. military is going to need as we look to the potential of conflict in the Indo-Pacific region.
I was reading that this morning, and I wasn't sure what I was reading. Are these crafts from Eureka robots?
Oh, no, no. These are, if you kind of take in the context of PT boats going
Okay.
back to World War II days, but you're now looking at an evolution of decades and decades of advancement, both technologically and propulsion and performance. And these combatant craft have the ability to carry large payloads for logistics, deliver enormous lethality in terms of weapon systems, but also travel at 40 and 50 knots for thousands of miles. And it really changes the dynamic of logistics and warfare, certainly in the Indo-Pacific region where you have a lot of littorals and islands and small harbors and things like that. And, you have to realize that, China is making tremendous advances in the Indo-Pacific region. And it's not just simply to advance trade and exports. I mean, these are establishing military bases and islands and a presence, and there is a plan. And there is a concern by a number of the nations in the Indo-Pacific region that their very forward-leaning posture may have an actual impact on sovereignty and the ability to conduct business going forward, since a predominant amount of global commerce goes through the South China Sea, the Philippine Sea. And if you constrain those sea lanes of strategic commerce, it affects the total global economic picture. And there's really only one country that has a predominant weight, and that's the United States leading those countries. So we're constantly in discussion with them, having military exercises with them. We're establishing a bigger presence with them, both commercially and militarily. Hence that term Indo-Pacific. It's more encompassing because it really reflects a region of the world that is very volatile right now and has the potential for conflict going forward. But I believe that is a purpose by a lot of these trade agreements that President Trump is moving forward. It is to position the United States and our allies to work together in a more harmonic way, such that it displaces the influence of Russia and China, which has a far more more sinister sense of forward foreign policy and outlook.
So as you know, I live in San Diego, and just back, I'm in the tourist district where I live, and that is adjacent to the harbor and adjacent to the U.S. Navy, which is huge in this Southern California area, with headquarters right here down the street and across the water in Coronado. So connected with all that is shipbuilding. Right here underneath the vast, almost a stone's throw from where I'm sitting here is the Coronado Bridge, and on just on the other side of that is the General Dynamics owned shipyards that have a few $1 billion of current contracts. And BAE, the British owned, is right next to it, involved in that. So and the security is visible 24/7 everywhere, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And it's exciting. Joanne and I live here in San Diego Harbor. Uh, all along the harbor, San Diego Bay are military bases, all of them Navy related. And there, it's a tremendous economic development factor in this region here. And it's going to get bigger now, isn't it, with shipbuilding?
Shipbuilding is probably one of the top two or three priorities of this administration. I mean, we're a maritime country. We have a West Coast, we have a Gulf Coast, we have an East Coast, and with the shifting of the Arctic Circle, with it being a little warmer in the north and much colder in the south, then we have for at least a while, we have the Arctic sea lanes that are opening. And you know, the U.S. is we're the world's number one economy. We're importing and exporting. So, but the challenge is that most of this is being done on ships that weren't built in the United States. They aren't flagged and registered in the United States. They aren't controlled by the United States. And that takes away a certain amount of leverage. It raises the cost of doing business by U.S. companies. So the president been very forward leaning, the entire administration and American industry, about investing in U.S. shipbuilding, both the larger shipyards that you were alluding to in San Diego, but also other yards sprinkled around each coast of the United States that should be building tankers and container ships and roll-on, roll-off ships to advancing our own maritime industry. I mean, not too long ago, up until the early 70s, you know, the United States had the predominant number of merchant vessels in the world. We were building more ships than any other country in the world. And for a variety of reasons, that almost 95% withered away and went to countries that could do it cheaper. And I'm not saying their product is cheaper. I mean, they last for a long time, but we should be doing it here in the United States. I mean, I mean, a lot of the research and development and the technological advances that are associated with shipbuilding have originated in the United States, but have been transferred to foreign countries who are then designing and building those ships and repairing them over time.
So let's talk about Panama Canal. Now you're very knowledgeable about that area
Mhm.
there, and you're what, managing editor of Transports?
Yeah, I am an editorial director of Transports Magazine. It's the
Hmm.
Latin America's largest maritime logistics publication.
And that means Panama Canal.
It's a center of gravity for all global commerce is the Panama Canal.
So with Blackstone investing, from my readings, I see that Blackstone has purchased um, a lot of companies on both sides of that canal to help the U.S. Protects?
Well, I mean,
I don't know whether I'm
it's
using the
it's
right
it's a little
words or
bit it's a
not.
little bit more complicated than that. It's, BlackRock.
Sure.
It's there's a number of commercial actors and players that are very interested in having an investment, a long-term investment in the Panama Canal, because the construct of that agreement affects 40 other ports around the world. So that's a lot more. The agreement that you're alluding to, that's primarily focused on the Panama Canal, also affects the contracts and ownership and leasing rights across 40 different ports around the world. But to give you a sense of importance, when President Trump took office, he has a brand new Secretary of State, a brand new Secretary of Defense, a new cabinet. What was the first place the president took interest? What was the first place the Secretary of State visited? What was the first place the Secretary of Defense visited? It was the Panama Canal. So why is that? Well, one, it, it, it China is the leading investor in Panama, and still is today. But they were having a substantial leverage of control over the administration of the canal. And I don't mean to take away from the Ministry of Canals or the Panama Canal Authority. Panama Canal Authority is probably one of the most efficient, well-run organizations in the world. But the influence of China was becoming rather pervasive. And the sensors and the data collection and the influence was becoming pretty acute, such that it was becoming very clear to the United States that there was perhaps the problem of degrading the sovereignty of the Panama Canal from Panama subtly, and also degrading our security arrangements with Panama. It put at risk the U.S. has relied the safety and security of the Panama Canal. The U.S. has relied upon to ensure the free flow of commerce. Again, 75% of all commerce going to the United States and from the United States has going through the Panama Canal.
So
This is
let's just
enormous
jump in
fact.
and give a geography lesson here for
Okay.
for the audience.
Mhm.
So um, San Diego is relatively a small town. Um, 130 miles north is the port of LA, Long Beach, which is huge.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but San Diego is the first port coming north from the Panama Canal on the Pacific uh, in the U.S. The San Diego port sits on the Mexican border.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, on the other side is Miami, Fort Lauderdale. That's critical, right?
Absolutely.
That's the first stop. And then all the other ports going up the East Coast. And uh, the China Belt Road and Belt Initiative, it sounds like it's a really great idea to help ports, and then uh, whatever the complications are from making those deals with big players, the weaker players get swallowed up or dominated. And I think that's what you were referring to about uh, the sensors blinking red.
Well, it's just there was a lot of Panama is a maritime country, and influence comes in many different shapes and sizes. And when you see Chinese signs or around the Panama Canal, Chinese writing, I mean, some of this has just been evolving over the past 3 or 4 years, and it just put a level of uncertainty with this administration. And it was important from their perspective that they address the matter. And Panama is a friend. I mean, they use the U.S. dollar is the physical dollar used in Panama, and I mean, it's a sovereign country. They take pride in the canal, their independence. They want to be viewed as an equal broker to all nations, because everyone depends on the canal. But China has been making a substantial influence that was making a difference in the global economy, and there was an unacceptable level of risk associated with their presence. So that's a lot of that has been worked on behind closed doors with the President of Panama, Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, having the both sides of the canal, the terminal operators that have been Chinese with that lease coming to closure, wanting to make sure that, well, the next set of owners are not predominantly Chinese, they're Western. It puts at ease some of the concerns that the U.S. has had. Again, the majority of commerce going to and from the U.S. goes through the canal. And of course, we built the canal and we've protected the canal. So we have a sort of an intuitive level of interest in the canal, wanting to make sure that it is completely free and it is not unduly influenced.
Well, thank you for that deep dive. It's fascinating. And as we come to a close in the next 8 to 10 minutes here, uh, the foreign direct investment, I want to circle back to that
Okay.
and the magazine that's just been published earlier today by FDI Alliance,
Mm-hmm.
based in London. This edition was had a subheadline, uh, and it's a monthly. And they used to print it, in more than 100 glossy pages, and I think they still print some, but now it's all a flip online. Uh,
Sure, sure, right.
yeah, and I like that so much, I decided to rebuild, uh, pick up the print magazines that I used to do
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, 25
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and then put them to bed as I started doing live meetings. But now I'm seeing, with the acceptance of this program, Global TV Talk Show, that I could do a flip magazine at tremendous cost savings. In the 1980s, just to jump around, I printed the California Bound series and New York Bound and Florida Bound. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Anyway, this is
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, I remember seeing those. Yeah,
glossy.
yeah, yeah.
So we used to print in California,
Mm-hmm.
and
Luck
uh,
today.
and the LA Chamber. This is going back in the 80s. This was the 1984
Mm-hmm.
edition. All right, and so and there I was at that time.
Oh my goodness.
All right, I was 36 years old or something like that.
You're a hippie back then, Ed. Yeah,
Uh, that,
okay.
no, I just had a beard, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but now look at Vice President Vance. He's got a beard.
Yeah. It's in vogue.
Okay,
You set a fad.
so I had a beard, but I wore a suit and tie, and so bottom line here is that I was active with the LA Chamber of Commerce and LA Economic Development Corporation, because this is a recruitment relocation
Mm-hmm.
guide
Oh
to
yeah. Mm-hmm.
communities, right? And it's never been done before in Southern California. So I made a deal with the Chamber, LA Chamber and LA EDC, to partner with me and to buy copies and give them out to all their corporate members. And they
Mm-hmm.
did. They bought more than 100,000 copies at 10
There you
bucks
go.
each.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time ago. So I didn't have any investors. I had customers.
That's the way to go.
That was it. Okay. So in the chamber, I was introduced to Mr. Kim, who's from Seoul, and but an American citizen, and he represents the printers back at home, right? And he says, uh, we became friends. We went out to lunches, drinks. And he says, you want to save money? You could save 50, 60% on your printing costs. Print with me in Hong Kong,
Mm-hmm.
Shenzhen, and Seoul. Uh, it doesn't matter. They're all about the same price.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee you the quality will be just as good as what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I took a chance
Mm-hmm.
and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
My US print relationship went south, but so there I was in the early days printing over there,
Mm-hmm.
and we airshipped over 1,000 or 1,500 Not that expensive, frankly, to
Not at
do
all,
that.
right.
All
Right.
right. And put the rest on the boat. And we never, ever had a problem.
Well, that's why U.S. industry ended up, homesteading overseas.
Okay. That's the story right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an example of it. And all of that's artificially created. We should be able to do it just as well over here in the United States.
So now here is a spin-off magazine that I did. Like that was more consumer oriented.
Hmm.
This I call Global HR News, which has to do
Hmm.
with the
Yeah,
HR people.
right.
And the guy on the front cover is Dr. John Pompey with Caterpillar Corporation.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he is in charge of people worldwide.
Hmm.
So that was my cover story. So he, so I'm going back to these magazines now, and I'm going to do TV shows on them. And simultaneously, I'm getting ready. I'm looking for advertisers so I could fund it. Uh, Notice I'm not saying lenders. I don't want any bank
Hmm.
relationships or any
Hmm.
private equity,
Sure.
or
Hmm.
I just want advertisers.
Hmm.
That's all I
Yeah,
want.
it's the way you do business.
Right. And so, but I'm going to fund it that way, and then I'm going to go into flip magazines
Mhm.
as well. But to keep them short and small rather than 100 pages, and because no one has time to do that now. But they'll
Um,
look at 8, 10 pages.
that's correct. That's
Yeah.
right.
And they'll love doing this TV talk show,
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
like you and I doing
I
this.
just do it. Yeah.
Hampton, Dowling, bless you. Thank you very much for being
No, it's a pleasure to be with you
on the
again,
show.
man. It's an exciting world. There's just a whole lot going on. It's great. Got to
Right.
pay attention though.
Why don't you announce what your website is?
Um, Ed, I don't have a website. I've never had a need for a website. I
See
mean,
that, people?
LinkedIn has been an extraordinary success for me. People reach out to me, and I communicate very well. At least I
As you can
try.
see,
And
audience.
and business and advisory services or helping them at a corporate level has all been by name call. People reach out. It's all by the network. So I just haven't had the need or the time to put together a website. My only social media is LinkedIn, and I have never stopped being busy since I put out my own shingle back in 2009.
Thanks you very much again. Hampton Dowling,
Thanks, Ed.
come back again.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, this is Ed signing off in San Diego. Hampton's in the Washington area. By the way, we're going to do a live meeting there, and love you to get involved again. I don't have a date yet.
Just let me know, you know how to reach me, Ed, on LinkedIn, by email, doesn't matter.
Okay, ciao.
Yeah.
Thank you.